Welcome all. It's draft night again on Primetime Mock, the show where we bring you a different industry draft with guests from all over the fantasy community. I'm the host of this draft party, Mark Shuey. I got my guy Joe Shuey holding it down with me. Shuey, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Mark? I'm still coming off this high from the expo this weekend.
Yeah, tell me about it. It was an electric weekend out in Canton, Ohio. Had a great time meeting a lot of people who are here in attendance in this draft tonight. And so many more. We had a great time. That Saturday party out on the field and the flag football and all that just like was the cherry on top.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I really enjoyed getting to play cornhole and getting to meet a lot of different people that I've interacted with on Twitter. It was a little sad that Bob kicked my ass in the final 8 there, but I'll get him next year.
He can't just he won't just plan a party. He can end up being the life of that party too, that Bob Long. All right, so we are here for an auction draft and to talk auction strategy as a whole. We've got a really good setup. I'm going to bring the draft in here as we go. We've already started. We've got a really good group of draft guests. We're going to start off. He is the publisher of the auction roadmap for YardsPer. Mr. Auction, Andrew Debbink. Andrew, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, doing good. I'm already down to $38 as a max bid here before we even kick off the broadcast, so I'm feeling great. But
I can't tell if it's a flex, Andrew, or not. If you're going this far into the stars and scrubs right off the bat, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see how it turns out for you. Moving over, we've got from Auction Nuts, it's Jason Cronkrite. Jason, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having us. I'm looking forward to a little bit of auction drafting tonight, and just got my first player, so moving right along.
There we go. Happy to have you. I think we connected back at Adam Siegel's draft. Adam has brought a bunch of us together in that auction DM group, and we've been doing these mock drafts now for a few weeks, and it's been a real blast. And we had a real good time. I think it was last Sunday with that one. Glad to have you on here tonight. Moving right along from Team Riser Fall, his bottom of the barrel show as well. We've got Detroit Beastie himself, Mr. Chris Robin. Chris, good to see you again, man. How are you?
I'm great. And one thing, people, you can make fun of me all you want. I'm 38 years old, but this is the best kept secret in auction drafts. It's a little stylus pen. It's got that little rubber tip on it, and I can do everything I need to do with my phone and my stylus, that little rubber tip, as you can see it right there. So I'm ready to rock. Still, I'm just sitting back, watching guys spend money like it's nothing. And here I am, still waiting on that first player. But DFS is in my blood, so I'm not saying I'm out of my comfort zone here, but, looking at some of these price tags, it is. I don't know how long I can hang here.
You don't want to blow it all too quickly, as Andrew knows already. But it does seem like when you're in these auction drafts, it's hard not to jump in. It's hard not to get that player. You see that you see Davante Adams right now going for $25, and you have to bid one more. It just keeps on coming. Chris, it was great to connect with you again back at the expo. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was outstanding. I remember what we're doing now is what we talked about Sunday afternoon, like right before people had already, left or they're going home, and we were just sitting on the sidelines there over there, and we were talking, and it was just a great experience. Like conversations like you and I had, like that's the most fun part of it to me, because anybody can walk into a room and command 10 people and have all these conversations. But to me, I always like those one-on-ones with anybody, let alone you. And it was just such a great time all weekend, but I didn't leave until Monday at like 1 or 2 o'clock. Didn't get back to Detroit until like 6. So it was a longer trip for me than most people, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I got the time off of work, PTO as an adult and all that stuff, so I used it, and I had a blast. There was not one, so I was asking a few people, and Kelly in Phoenix as well, was there a bad conversation that you had this weekend? And we looked at each other and just said, no, we didn't really have a bad conversation. So I feel like when you get to a place like that, anybody that's worth a damn or anybody that's not worth a damn, they stay the heck out of the way, or they introduce themselves, and they say, hi, I'm Chris, I'm in Detroit. This is what I do. And if that's not your style, then the Expo, probably not for you. But very long-winded answer, Mark. I apologize. I had a great time.
I mean, there are not enough words to express how amazing the weekend was. Another guy I met this weekend from the Dynasty Rewind, Zack Duarte. Zack, what's going on, man?
Oh, what's going on, everybody? I won't talk to you about my rubber tip like Chris, but love auction drafting.
I hope it's similar. I hope it's not a different rubber tip we're talking about.
Look at him pointing that thing in our face. That's dangerous, man. You got to be careful with that. No, I'm kind of newer to the community, so I was really happy to connect with the people that I did. Some of the people on this panel I didn't get a chance to meet, but here we are, and I think we all share a common interest in auction drafting because snake drafts suck. So
I can't talk bad about snake drafts. I do like snake drafts.
I can do this all day.
Even until we got to the point where we could have these auction drafts without 50 bots destroying it on a regular basis, I really still enjoyed snake drafting. It really allows you to at least sort of line up your tiers, and then auction drafting. For this is linear drafting feels like classical music to me, and this is more like jazz, right? Is you've got to just throw the notes out the window sometimes, and don't throw your budget out the window, but you gotta throw the notes out the window and just sort of go off of what the inflection points and what's happening in the draft, what the market is telling you is and isn't valued, and where you can sort of command your budget and drop the hammer.
I think the thing for me, just between auction draft and snake drafts is, and there was a panel of auction draft strategies at the convention this weekend, and I was there in attendance. I wanted to, see what some of the experts had to say about it, and I just agree. Like, I really feel that if somebody were to try an auction draft, and again, this is not my thing. I'm taking this from what the guy said this weekend, that if you've never tried an auction draft before, and you try it for the first time, nobody ever goes back and says like, oh man, no, we should go back to snake drafting. Like, nobody ever says that when they auction draft for the first time. I've never met anybody that said after an auction draft that the league should have done a snake draft, or we should go back to rookie drafting, or not. I'm sorry, not rookie drafting, but just startup drafting snake. Like, I've never heard that before, and it's because you have a fair chance at any player that you want in an auction draft, and for me, that's just the thing. Like, snake draft, you are subject to your draft position, and in an auction, you're not.
Yeah, I mean,
Mark, do you mind if I say something really quick when we look at this
I
thing?
love not having to talk at all on these shows.
Okay,
so really
so as it stands at this moment in time, people can see the screen. DeAndre Swift is on the clock, and I will bid on this one. But we just glanced over the fact that Scott, nimble with numbers, nominated Marlon Mack, and so basically nobody bid on Marlon Mack, so he gets him for $1. In a way, I appreciate that, but nominating Marlon Mack because he knew no one wanted him, and then he gets him for $1. What's it? Do you think that's a genius move? Player name with outstanding, but you nominate a guy that you think, I kind of know these guys, nobody's going to want him, and if I nominate him now, I can get him for basically nothing, and which he did for $1.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have like that conviction about a guy, that's fine. Sometimes I don't like to throw a roster spot to that person right off the bat, but if you feel like good enough that you're going to get them for $1, that's fine. But it always feels a little dangerous to me when there's still so much money out there.
Here's the thing about that.
I would question. Is he trying?
I don't know if he's actually there.
It doesn't look like is he trying to get him for $1 because he really wants him for $1? Because you can do that, 100 nominations from now and still get him for $1. I would question if he's trying to get that on somebody else's team for $2 and take up a roster spot.
I did see a comment from him. Is it just me? I saw a comment pop up from him that said thought it started at 9, and it was 9. So I don't know if Scott's there or not.
He's not live. Like, you look at him, there's no green button next to him. So I don't.
He said his computer crashed.
I don't think that was actually him.
Okay, well, Scott, hey, you got Marlon Mack for $1, and we were trying to make fun of you, but now it can't do it when you're not available to stick up for yourself.
I say in a similar vein, right before that came up, I nominated the Ravens defense, and so I didn't know if it was going to work in this room, kind of thing. Like, the Ravens defense is a defense that's my preferred defense. They have a great matchup week 1. with the Jets maybe starting the backup. So boom, give me the Ravens. For $1, I'm happy to put them on my team and get my first choice of defenses. But, if somebody else wants to spend multiple dollars on a defense, I'm happy to watch somebody spend a couple extra bucks and be out a couple extra bucks later in the draft. And so there they go. I'm not going to get my first choice, but I'm still going to get a fine defense. I'm not spending more than $1. So strategy break in there.
You can't wait to see the Ravens just destroy Joe Flacco in week 1. And he is here, our guy Steve, the fantasy ladder from IDP guys, and you got to help me out here, Steve.
Oh yeah, IDP guys and Dynasty pros and host of the Fantasy Ladder podcast. So I appreciate you having me on. I'm fashionably late. I apologize. But I'm glad to be here.
I threw the show notes out the window about 5 minutes ago. So you're So
all good.
I had to go straight from memory. You're lucky enough to have been here a couple times that I did you justice. So
That's right. That's right.
Good to have you. You're always a part of these auction groups that we end up doing from time to time. Again, it's always great. It's great. I really can't thank Adam Siegel enough for putting these together and getting them on such a consistent basis that now I can put a mock draft together and they come through consistently, because it felt like it took such a long. It was almost impossible to do anything like this even before this past season. I mean, you could do it once in a while, but it really took a lot of preparation.
Yeah, no, it's really great. His average auction values, you may have mentioned that already. It's just a really tremendous collection of data from a lot of the mock drafts he's done. Tremendously useful in these kinds of situations where you play on one platform or another, the values are all over the place. So it's really good just to have that as a real life person collection of data. It's really great.
Okay, so we're here on Primetime Mock. We're talking auction drafts. And like I said a few minutes ago, that this is often kind of like jazz. It's very improvisatory, but you still need to go in. You still need to go into your auction with some kind of a plan. You want to know what you should expect an average price should be for a running back. You want to have some sort of expectation of that in your room, but also you have to be willing to pay attention to the market. So I guess my first question, and I'm going to throw it to Andrew, is what are you expecting what are you expecting out of the first half of your budget if you're going through here? I mean, you went through the Stars and Scrubs strategy here this week, but what is your expectation for your budget and at the beginning of the draft, and how do you adapt sort of as you go?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm probably in the minority of folks who do auction drafts. I don't really go in with a set budget, if I'm being honest, and that's probably apparent by the fact that I have 3 guys for $150 here. But this actually isn't usually how I turn out. I like to just see how it goes. I have a price sheet in front of me. I figured out prices. They reconcile exactly with the total amount of dollars available in the auction, as well as the total number of players that need to be selected, right? And so it's basically like my most efficient allocation of total auction dollars if I had full control of everybody's team. And basically I have that sheet in front of me, and if somebody's significantly lower than the price on that sheet, I'm not going to be afraid to dive in. So basically the way I got to where I am here, I have on my sheet Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson both at $68. And so I wasn't going to sit here. I mean, I appreciate I just sunk a lot of my budget in these guys, but I wasn't going to sit here and let what I perceive to be a $20 deal go. And these prices are based on a set of projections, value over replacement analysis. So, I mean, if the math works out, which I hope it does, I'm an accountant. So if not, I got to find a new day job. But if the math works out, I like where I'm sitting right now.
Man.
I mean, you can't deny the star power. But with all that comes like fragility, right? When you put that money in. I guess it really depends on how the rest of the auction works out. But So
Yeah.
so I guess
No,
I guess my question is when is the time to say when in that situation? If you, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
when you go through this, people throw out their money on God knows what in some of these auction situations. So what is, I mean, when do you say when and say like, okay, this is a deal I need to take, and then this is a deal that I'm gonna let somebody else, I'm gonna let somebody else have this one. I need to preserve elsewhere.
Yeah, that's the game within the game, right? In one of the sections I wrote in my auction roadmap, one of the things I say is you can't win all the deals, right? Like there's going to be deals on the board that you just have to let go. You can't win them all. It's just the way it's going to happen. You don't have enough money to get them all. So you have to be judicious. I mean, you have to try to hunt for the big ones, which, by the way, Javonte Williams for 27 there. That's a pretty solid one. But there's no hard and fast way. I like to try to get at least a $5 deal relative to my price sheet on everybody. That's a minimum. Especially, that's even more so on like a super flex where there's crazy different variety and strategy and stuff like that. But if there's a $10 deal hanging out there, then I'm going to pounce on that every time pretty much. And I'm still looking for those right now. I'm not opposed to going for it if that's the way the auction steers me. But my preference right now would be, try to pull back, find some deals on lower tier guys to try to fill out a little bit more at this point.
Does anyone else want to touch on just opening strategy, and then I mean you can talk about your own opening here, and then your strategy going forward if you'd like, but really want to just talk about opening strategy, sort of feeling out the room, and how when it's time to sort of strike on a player.
So one thing that I'll do at the start of an auction is I'll throw out players that I'm kind of unsure about myself, or players that I really only want to draft for like a value, right? So say for example, I'm not as high on, in this case, like Javonte Williams, I threw him out because I'm kind of curious to see how much he's going to go for. I would be interested in him at a value, not that he's a bad player. I just think like Melvin Gordon could like eat into his production more than maybe what they're alluding to with all the reports and all this. So if I can get him for less than what I think he's worth, then that's a win. Now, if a player in the draft, overpays for him, that's a double win because that's more money off the board. So that is a way that I typically handle like the early nominations, is players that I'm really only interested in at a value, or ones that I'm not super particularly interested in the current season.
So another thing that it's not going to work in this room because we got too many guys who do too many auctions and are too sharp, right? But something else you can try in your home league that I find to be a nice way to, it's even more important than getting to spend the money, is to start consuming roster spots that they have. So I'll pick a guy like, let's say, I know at the end of a draft that, some guys generally not getting drafted, like a Paris Campbell or something, like generally not getting drafted, but maybe somebody's got a thing for him kind of thing, where I'll throw out somebody who is just kind of below that cutoff line, and hopefully somebody comes in, and since they have a lot of money's still flowing, they'll hit them for $2 or $3. And I haven't gotten to spend a lot of money, but I've gotten to start fill up their roster with junk that shouldn't even be rostered in a league kind of thing. So that's another thing. I say it's not going to work in this room, but in your home league, it'll work more often than not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Me trying to drive this show and do the draft at the same time, you might catch me sleeping, and
I think we all just missed Deontay Johnson going for one there.
Yeah.
Now I was offering 2, but it gave me an error. But so I just I just killed the app and brought it back up. But
we can't go on without saying that was just an absolute oversight here.
But Justin just got to steal the draft, so good for Justin there.
Hey,
let's be clear. Deontay Johnson is worth more than $1 for those.
Yes,
those listeners.
That's right.
It's a draft show. It's not about the draft. We're here to talk Austin. Do what I say, not what I do. Is what we're all saying here. Okay. Yeah. For me, what I do like to do is at the very least I have sort of like speed bumps that I like to roll over and just like sort of take stock of where I am and what I'm doing at a time. So like the first real speed bump for me is 50% of my budget spent, right? Like 50%, and I'm over that right now. And I basically knew as I was bidding on my last player, Chimera, that was happening. Then there's 60%, and then there's sort of basically what I sort of think of as like what I want to sort of give like as a hefty budget, not hefty, but big enough for the back end of my roster. I usually look $32 to like $40-$45 just to have the back end of my roster. That's sort of like where I'm looking. So basically, once I hit 60%, then that next percentage is sort of like where am I looking to get to fill out the rest of my starters before I hit my bench. And so like right now, I passed that 50% mark. For me, that's a sign for me to slow down, to let the room sort of move around. Obviously, if there's a guy I can get at a value, if I don't talk everybody's ear off, I'll try and make that happen. But really, what I'm going to try and wait for everyone else's salaries to come down and sort of get to this point where I can have a little more leverage within the room. Does anyone else have sort of like these sort of inflection points that they're sort of waiting for, or just spots in the draft that they feel like they want to hit, whether it's how many roster spots you fill out, how much of your budget you spent? Does anyone have any of that kind of strategy that they like to employ?
I was just going to say, piggybacking off of you, it's even less about how much of my spend I've put out there and more about where I am relative to everybody else. I think you touched on it, Mark. If I'm the low stack here, which I am currently, I believe, I like to wait a bit if I can. I mean, if there's a deal, I'll jump on it, but I like to try to stay in the middle of the pack best I can. Like, don't wait too long, but also don't be the low stack. I find my money goes farther when, you're kind of in the middle or the high stack. So that's especially true at the end, but it's kind of true throughout the auction.
Yeah, because, to be honest, you think of the auction draft, your salary and what it is in relation to everybody else in the room. It's sort of like potential energy that's building up. So if you don't spend that money, and there are still valuable players that you find at the same tier as everybody else that's going off the board, if you don't spend that money, it's sort of potential energy building up, and then there becomes a point where everybody is drained of a little cash. They might have a few more players than you, but there are still plenty within that tier you can find, and then you find a time to drop a hammer. And sometimes, in Andrew's case, it's, you know what? I've got $200. Everyone's got $200. I'm gonna drop the hammer right now, and that can work too. It's really finding like when is the time for that hammer to drop, right? Like, when is the time do we let that hammer drop, and when are we willing to push ourselves down into the low stack so we can sort of come back up and build up?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think a lot of times the main advice a lot of people try to give on auction drafts for newcomers is just wait, right? Like, just wait and let the draft play out, and you're going to find deals later. If I'm being honest, I think this draft is kind of playing out the opposite, right? I think there was some decent deals at first, and now I'm kind of seeing, Pittman for 33. I love Pittman, but that's a bit high for me personally. But I think some of these middle tier guys are going to be going a little bit higher.
Well, come to find out, I have to split at 9:30. So Mark and I talked. He goes, well, if you can get like some sort of a core together before you split and don't leave your team blank, then I think we'll be fine. So I was just bidding crazy on those last few guys because I've laid low for the last 15 or 20 minutes. Not how I normally like to move, but as it stands now, the core is Jones, Travis, Adams, Tyreek Hill, Michael Pittman, and J.K. Dobbins. Yes, I have $24 left, and yes, it'll be a lot of dollar spots, but hey, guess what? I don't think I'll be around here when those spots gets filled. So right now, I'm cool as a cucumber, boys.
Absolutely, it's a great core.
Who's your favorite pickup you got in that deal, in that signing there, Chris? I particularly still really like Tyreek Hill and J.K. Dobbins, like, and getting the in the 20s
And plus,
is like,
Devontae Adams for $34. I mean, you on the low end, you look at Deontay Johnson at $1. Holy smokes, we gotta just completely act like that didn't exist if we're gonna have any sort of hope of being, good analysts when it comes to auction drafts. Justin Jefferson 44, Cooper Kupp 47, and so when you look across the board, Deebo Samuel $31 or Devontae Adams for $3 more. I would go Adams with $3 more every time. CeeDee Lamb $1 more. So you look at Adams or CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Dynasty, it's still kind of like right there, but personally, Devontae Adams. And then you look at Jamar Chase for only $38 here. So to me, I look at Devontae Adams going to where are they now? Oakland, LA, with the Raiders, Vegas. Yeah, the Vegas Raiders. He's going to be an integral part of that team. And so again, for $34 in a draft where the lowest wide receiver was Johnson at $1, and the highest so far looks like it was Justin Jefferson. I'm very happy with Devontae at $34. And one thing I will say, I went a little crazy on Michael Pittman at $33, but I saw an opening there and I grabbed it.
yeah.
I actually really like Devontae at 34. That's a good one.
Yeah, I had him pegged for like at least 40, 42 on the high end in my book, in my eyes, and then here we are at 34. So I'm cool with it. I don't think that'll happen again in any mock draft I'm at. Adams at only 34. But I also don't think in the rest of our lives can we make a pact right here, right now. We'll try and hold hands. We'll touch the side screen right here, and we'll go. Deontay Johnson will never go for $1 again in every mock draft read. So we have that. That's something special we can all share, right?
That is the flaw of online drafting. In a live person draft, never going to happen. So it's much better experience overall, But yeah.
Every once in a while, we have a little oopsie out here on Primetime Mock. I'm not gonna lie. There was one year we had the quarterback show, and I think Ryan Fitzpatrick went at like pick 48 in the quarterback draft, and he was still starting for a team at that point. So we sometimes we let it go. We make mistakes, we own up to them, but that's what this is about. We have a good time out here. Chris, if I know you gotta get going here. If you want to sign off, where can the people find you?
Absolutely. I'm on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. I am 100% focused on DFS at this moment in time, and we know once the football season is around, everything is wild. It's going to be a jungle. So whether you're doing auction drafts, you should bring everything you got to this site with Mark. He's a great dude. And every day during the baseball DFS, hockey DFS, and again, football is right around the corner. So we're going to be getting into all that bottom of the barrel article, a video every day. There is a single game, Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night. Anytime there's a football game with night at the end, I'm going to have a DFS video about it. So thanks for having me, Mark, and it's been a blast.
Always a pleasure, Chris. We'll have to link up again sometime this season. If not, have a great one, all right?
All right, well, I'll see you, boys.
All right, we're about halfway through the show here. I'm going to take a minute to just remind everyone to subscribe to the Primetime Fantasy Network here on YouTube. We are so close to 100 subscribers. Really make sure you get yourself out there and do that. And Fantasy Football is back again this year. The reality show, the DFS and Fantasy Football reality competition I put together. We're still looking for applications, people to come in and join the house. So it's not a house, but it's a good time either way. So we're gonna throw up just one more time. If you haven't seen it, we're gonna throw the video up for you right here.
Need something. It can't be Murray. It can't be Ertz. We win.
Put your season-long fantasy football and DFS skills to the ultimate test in Fantasy Football, a reality competition.
I love this league.
Fantasy football is the truth. It's by far my favorite fantasy league.
It's so much fun to combine fantasy football with daily fantasy, with season-long fantasy, with traditional bets, with prop bets. The format of this has just been spectacular.
This league is so engaged based on the format. The feeling of let's load up and let's go on the attack is crazy. The energy is so fantastic.
22 contestants will be selected to join the league and compete for immunity.
Hurts just hit Quest for a 2-point conversion. We're taking down that immunity showdown.
Back to back.
Your boy won immunity this week. Let's go.
To avoid being dropped,
Josh Allen goes for it on a sneak on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. and he misses, and that's my season.
It's over. It's over.
To be the best.
Forget top 5. I was the top nerd of the week.
Woo! That's 2 weeks in a row. Top nerd.
We're top nerd. Got him.
And to take down the $5,000 prize.
Where have all the tight ends gone? Where have all the tight ends gone? Jesus!
There's some serious trash talking going on, man. All this nonsense trash talk. I've been minding my business the whole time.
There was a bar just right around the corner from my hotel. Little did I know, Aces is a New York Giants bar.
So come live your best fantasy life and show us what you've got this season on Fantasy Football, a reality competition.
You excited? Yeah, let's go. She says, let's go. Let's go.
All right, we're back here on Primetime Mock. We're drafting T. Higgins right now. He's going for $25 right now. And I'm not quite sure how many players have gone off the board at this time, but it looks like, who's our high stack right now? It looks like that's Justin Herrera, Sebtex Mex. He is the high stack there. Looks like 181. And the rest of us are all broke. So, one other piece of strategy that I wanted to talk about is just how tight ends and quarterbacks and just one position players in general. How are you folding them into your strategy? Maybe we'll start with Zack on this one. Do you have a specific strategy? Like if you're looking, are there tight ends that you're willing to put that dollar amount on? Are there quarterbacks you're willing to put $1? Because really in an auction, especially a 1 QB, you can find a lot of these guys. It feels like for me it's pay up or punt. And then how are we balancing our strategy with that? Zack, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. In this league where it's a single quarterback, I'm gonna let people spend some money on the Mahomes, on the Allen. I think Lamar, 18, not too bad. But for me, I'll let people blow their money, and I'll take the 10th, 11th, 12th best quarterback. Whether that's potentially Russell Wilson, maybe somebody sleeps on Dak Prescott. Heck, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford. Those guys I don't think will break the bank for me. So I'm going to wait a little bit on quarterback for myself, and you can see that's kind of what I'm doing. My strategy really is let the board play out, let people spend their money, and then see if I can get some good deals and fill in this roster with some depth. And tight end, I'm not really a Kelsey or Andrews guy just because of the cost. I think the cost on Andrews was pretty good. I can't see it off the top of my head.
30. Yeah, he went.
No, never mind. Nope, I don't want to spend that on a tight end. I don't want to spend a fifth of my auction budget on a tight end. I think that there are a lot of potential tight end breakout players available. Whether that's Hawkinson, Ertz. I'm big on Kmet this year. You could even get a Njoku at the end of the draft for a couple bucks is what I've been seeing the last few weeks. So I'm going to spend a lot of my money on these middle tier running backs. I did spend some money on running back because I think that's the premier position in a single quarterback league. I'll spend some money on wide receivers, but I'm going to try and bargain bin shop for my quarterbacks and tight ends later on when people don't really need to spend money on them or don't have the money to spend on them.
So I'm going to piggyback on what you said, too. Especially I'm looking at the tight end position this year, right? And the difference between tight end 6 and tight end 11 can be a touchdown or two. And so I can't justify getting tight end 11 for $1 and tight end 6 for $15 or $16. So for me, it's, I'm passing on all these top tight ends at a value. There's always a value to take a guy, right? But I'm not budgeting to spend $20, $30 on a tight end because in my estimation, I need to save that money to be really solid across the board, running back and wide receiver, and build this really solid core. Because if I'm going to win, I'm going to have to find a tight end who's going to pop anyway. Paying up for that $35, $40 Travis Kelce in a lot of scenarios, you've hamstrung yourself in other places where I'm looking for the guy who can pop and get me to a competitive, I can win more than half my weeks at the tight end position and then take care of everything else across the board at running back and wide receiver.
Yeah, I think for tight end, what I'm trying to do is find the guy who will go for less than $10 this year that next year will go for $20 to $25, right? And I even think that there are some potential late tight ends that nobody's going to bid on. Nobody remembers that Hayden Hurst is a starting tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not his fault they drafted Kyle Pitts last year. I think it was a top 10 tight end with Atlanta before that. Austin Hooper, he's probably a top 15, top 20 tight end. You can get him for $1. So I'm going to try and wait. And I probably just gave away a little bit of my secret, but that's what we're here for. And I'm gonna wait on some of these tight ends and see who I can get for cheap at the end. And I like to get like 3 or 4 of them for $1, $2, $3. I'll spend $10 on my tight ends, depending on how many roster spots we have. And I'm just gonna hope that one of them hits.
Well, especially these late guys you're talking about.
I don't know if I'm going to put 4 tight ends on my roster. On my roster off the draft, but I understand. I can understand.
Right. I mean, if it's only 16 roster spots, then probably not. But if it's 25, I'll do it. If I'm spending $10.
Well, two of these guys, you're talking about like a Komet or a Smith or an Njoku, like these are guys who very easily could be the second leading receiver on their teams as well. So like that just seems like a wise gamble to take in terms of I could get the volume, and then I'm hoping for some positive touchdown luck on it. Really.
Yeah, no, I think to that point, someone like a Kelsey or like an Andrews, what you're expecting out of them is like a wide receiver to output or better. So I don't think it would be that ridiculous to expect a big cost for them. I'm not going to be coming away with them at all, but I think that there is an argument to be made that it could be worth it. Perhaps, but at a onesie position, kind of going off of what Zack was saying, I'm not going to be the guy who's coming away with it, but you can expect big time production, especially this year, because Kelsey does not have Tyreek to work with or to fight for targets with, and Andrews doesn't have Brown either, so it could just be a delicious amount of targets for both of them. But still, I'm probably not going to be the one who's coming away with them. The way I figure it is usually like I have like a soft line in the sand with like 5% of my budget for quarterback, 5% of my budget towards tight end, and then 90% for running backs and wide receivers. So that's just like, we'll see how it goes. Like if I do happen to get like a decent deal on someone like say Herbert for just like a little bit above the 5%, well, that's fine. I'll just have $1 tight end, so that's kind of how I'll try to work it out.
So really, who are let's do this in a pile like, okay, who are the guys? Who are the quarterbacks? Who are the tight ends we're willing to spend more than, let's just say 20? Like, what's the $20? Like $20 or more. I'm looking at Kelsey, Andrews, Josh Allen. I wouldn't do a tight end and a quarterback probably, but
above 20, I got Kelsey, Andrews, Allen, Herbert. Those are the 4.
Yep, I can jive with that.
Yeah, I say my list wouldn't even be that big. Like it's maybe Allen, but I can't justify having that much of my budget committed otherwise.
Allen's pretty spicy though. If you're looking for the all spice team,
Like I say, you could have drafted Josh. Josh Allen would have been one of those guys that you could have drafted in the first round, and you would have been very happy with it last year in a 1 quarterback league, still probably. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I would spend more than 20 on Kelsey and Andrews, but I just couldn't do it for quarterbacks. There's just too many that are viable for $1. Like I'll just be more likely to stream, the at that position of quarterback. But I do think that Andrews and Kelsey would be worth it, especially this season. But I typically would not be the guy who's coming away with either one of them. I'd probably just target trying to trade for them in season if it's necessary or appropriate to do so. But the quarterbacks is just never going to be the case for me unless it's super flex, and in that case, it'd be way more than 20, obviously.
Yeah, so and every league has its charm and its place, but this is why I prefer, and I think if people can get their leagues to move towards super flex, create so much more value with that quarterback position and more competition for guys beyond the top 10 to 12, or whatever. So it's a preference, but I mean, like I said, every league has its right or has its role, So
yeah. I think the thing also in a single quarterback league, if you're spending over $20 on a quarterback, I'm spending $1 on my tight end, and vice versa. If I'm spending 20 on the quarterback, I'm not spending any more of my budget on a quarterback because, if you spend 20 plus on each, that's already a fifth of your budget, and you're just handcuffing yourself at the wide receiver and the running back position. So, I mean, I'm very much with Steve on this, where 5-10% of my budget on each position max, and I'll load up on some running backs and wide receivers.
So I would say that, so if you do, right, like if you're like, I'm going to get a quarterback and a tight end, like you have to be really committed to, I'm going 0 RB or something. Like you have to be really in on that strategy where I'm spending $10-15 on my RB1 kind of thing. And I get 0 RB as a, here, I got to nominate real quick. Who's at the top of the queue? All right. So I get that 0 RB is a totally viable zag when somebody else is zigging kind of strategy. But in my opinion, as we look at the numbers here, like that is really viable in a standard snake league where like you're locked out of getting, one of the top running backs or something when you're picking at the back of the first round or something. But like in an auction league, there's no need to go 0 RB unless you just don't like the elite running backs, right? Like you're never locked out of being able to get a running back. And generally, there's going to be somebody in the top 12 to 15 running backs that you like at cost too. So I don't usually approach auction drafts with the 0 RB strategy in mind because I have the ability to get a running back, and it's so vitally important to winning. But, okay, so they all go over cost. All right, fine. I can pivot and switch to 0 RB. But by and large, 0 RB is not a strategy that I think is super viable, something that I intentionally pursue in an auction league. Again, unless you know your league and know that you have to zig when they zag, it's an option. But it's generally not a strategy I approach a league with in auction drafting.
Yeah, and to speak again to the tight end quarterback, I think even in that situation, like you would have to still if you were still set on going maybe 0 RB or hero RB or whatever you want to call it, if you had decided that, you still would probably need to know that league doesn't value receivers as highly or spend, they just are not they don't tend to spend up on as much on receivers, so you can maybe make something like that work. It's a very like, obviously you can get it to happen, but it's more of a, I think on top of it, it's also because another large part of auctions is just knowing your league in general, like knowing as you have these leagues, you do them year over year with some of the same people, and you just start to have to learn their tendencies and adapt.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about that, and I think this is where I might differ from folks too, is I think a lot of people think, look at the tendencies of your league and see what they like to spend on, right? And running backs usually go for around this range kind of thing, and so you should expect to spend that. I mean, at the end of the day, you want your dollars to buy you more points than your opponents. And so I'm more of a proponent of zagging when everybody zigs. I said at the top, but I come in with my price sheet, and if everybody's overpaying at that position, I'll slide way down on the tiers, just knowing that, eventually the value is going to come around. All the points count the same at the end of the day. So if I have to get them at receiver, then I'll go that way. I just kind of let that play itself out. And that's kind of the counterpoint to the onesie position, I suppose. It's a little riskier because if you don't hit it, you just wasted a bunch of cash on something that didn't pay off and doesn't even give you depth really. But, if you stat it out and you think a player is going to give you an advantage to a certain degree, then he's worth a certain amount of dollars. So that's the counter argument, I think, to kind of punt in the onesie positions. But I like to punt the onesie positions whenever I can too. So,
well, so that's like, so I'm here talking about I'm not going to spend up on quarterback and tight end, and I just took Murray for $14, but I have him ranked as my QB3, and I'm $25 under budget at the moment. So it's almost like at some point I have to decide, like, okay, so I know I'm running $25 under budget, and I don't want to dump that all into my bench. So it's time now. Like, this is an inflection point for me. It's time to make sure that I'm getting guys that I think can make a difference on my team. instead of just sticking to what's a value. Like, is this a great value, or is this somebody who can make a difference? And I got to spend some of my money so I don't run out at the end, and all of a sudden I'm dumping $20 on my last spot on my roster. So like, this is the time where you have to realize, like, it's great to have money, but you got to spend it when there's the guys you want still too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm a proponent also. I think you hinted at, Jason, not saving a ton for your bench, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, you're going to rotate through bench guys anyways. You're going to pick guys up off of waivers. It's not really going to win you a league to have $40 on your bench. So, you know, if Kyler Murray's going to give you an advantage, you might as well go get it.
Yeah, I mean, generally, yeah. I mean, especially if there are plenty of $1 players you could fill out a roster with. I feel like, again, I like to put again. I said like 32 to 40. I say 48, 32 to $48. That's like my speed bump, right? So, I like to say, okay, I'm down here below. I'm down here below $50. I might, it might be, where you look at the tiers, there might be a few players out there and you say, okay, I want to have just this money to get those 1 or 2 players that are still left in that tier, to sort of take advantage of that. And then the rest can sort of go to your bench, there. But yeah, you can't be stuck holding the bag. If you're, like spending like $15 or $20 on, like, your favorite tight, maybe not your favorite tight end, that's not right. $15 or $20 on some running back who's like the last one, but they're still really not, they're not all that valuable. That doesn't do you any good. You need to know that you obviously need to know when you're overpaying, but you also need to know, like, when it's time to spend your money, because there's not going to be anybody left, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, knowing who's on the board still is huge for sure.
And I would advocate, like, as you're, all right, so we have 6 bench spots in this draft we're doing right now. Like, at least 3 of those, I'm allocating $1 to. And maybe I'm spending $2 or $3 based on how my budget falls. But, like, I'm taking swings at guys that I think can pop. And if they don't, they're gone by week 2 or 3. Like, that you're going to have to turn over your roster. So it's hard for me to say, I'm going to look at my bench and I'm going to commit $5 or $10 to every guy on my bench, because there's just, you have to churn your roster and find some guys who are going to pop for you. So I from just a budget strategy standpoint, I think saving more than a few bucks for the last spot on your roster is probably not wise allocation of funds. Steve doesn't like that.
No, I'm reacting to Mark coming in there the last second with the bid.
Steve, that was 100% of fat thumb. I was really hoping you would save me from that. I did not want to take Jerry Jeudy. I was not trying to say anything at that moment. I really just wanted you to outbid me.
I was really, really close to it, but I just happened to like this tier below him. But again, with the price of some of these guys, I mean, I probably should have bumped up to 16 if no one else was going to bite. It's all Andrew's fault. He went up to 14, and then that made me go to 15, and or whatever.
Yeah, I sniped you right at the last there. That's on me. You were a second away.
if you saw my face, I definitely went, so.
Well, I did it on the one before, so.
Yeah.
Tit for tat.
Yeah, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, especially in auctions. Oh my goodness.
All right, so
what a time! I love it.
We're coming down to the end here of our auction show. Before we go, we're gonna go down the line. I wanna, if you have any more auction, just one piece of auction advice that you could sort of give out to our viewers out here, what would it be? We're just gonna go right down. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, one piece of advice. Buy my roadmap? No.
That's advice.
That's got 60 plus pages of advice, but shameless plug. But no. I would just say do your prep beforehand and stick to it. Right. I've kind of hinted at it along the way here, but like, there's so many emotions, and like Steve just said, like, it gets heated out here. People snipe you, and you want to go 1 more, 2 more, whatever it takes. You can't let yourself do that. Just do your prep, know your prices, rely on those prices, and let those save you from the emotion of the moment.
I like it. And Andrew, just real quick before we go, if you want to just talk a minute about the auction roadmap and just where everyone can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm with YardsPer. That's where YardsPer Fantasy. That's where the roadmap is. It is $9.99, and it's really, to my knowledge, one of the more comprehensive auction guides out there. There's 60 plus pages of, I guess, article type content of just strategy, auction strategy, thinking about how to control the things you can control. And then it also comes with an Excel document, which I've been using here to help you kind of track on draft day. So I don't know. It's 99 and 100% of the proceeds go to Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago for charity. So if you think the content sucks, hopefully you don't, but at the very least you donated to charity.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, Jason Cronkite from Auction Nuts. Let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter at Auction Nuts. You can find all of our content there. That's pretty much where we're hanging out right now nowadays. So,
you got anything you're working on that you'd like to plug?
You know, we've done podcasting, but actually it's a little bit on hiatus this year, so I can't even plug a good pod. I mean, the podcast is out there. A lot of the episodes are evergreen in terms of the strategy. We've done a lot of strategy, how to approach your auction prep kind of stuff. So that's out there. It's available. It's evergreen, but we haven't been podcasting this season, actually. Life.
Life indeed. All right, moving over to Zack Duarte. Zack, go ahead and let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm with Dynasty Rewind. We have the podcast a couple times a week. We also have content on YouTube every single day, more Dynasty related. So, player price checks, startup drafts. We obviously just got past rookie draft season for the most part, but we have YouTube content every day on YouTube, and again, the podcast a couple days a week. We also have a patron where people can subscribe to the patron, and they get access to a Discord with community members, everybody from the team. We have quite a big team at Dynasty Rewind, so it's a really fun place to just have a Dynasty fantasy community. And we have different strategies. Some people like snake draft, some people like auction draft, some people like two tight ends, starting two tight ends, some people like super flex, some people don't. And that's what that whole community is about, is just coming together and relating in the Dynasty aspect. As I'm sure we've heard from a couple of the guys here, Steve and Jason, they like certain things different. So if you're interested in Dynasty, check us out. I think it's just at Dynasty Rewind on Twitter. I'm FF Lumberjack, and definitely excited to be here with you, Mark, and meet a couple of these guys here on the panel as well.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. Great meeting you again at the Expo this weekend. Yeah. And that's the thing about the Expo. You meet a new person, and they're all of a sudden they're a guest on your show. It just it happens that way. It's nice to have everybody in one spot to connect like that. But you can really do that out on Twitter. Where you do that out here on YouTube. We're always looking for people to join here on Primetime Mock, and if you're any person who wants to be part of the fantasy space. Maybe you're not someone who's I've never done any content. We always love having you out here, and we always love meeting new people and bringing them on. So Zack, Andrew, and Jason, all of you newcomers here on Primetime Mock this week. So we really appreciate that. Steve, you're not company at this point anymore, but why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and really the rest of the social media platforms, but I use Twitter the most at Fantasy Ladder. I do have my own podcast called the Fantasy Ladder Podcast. That's on the IDP Guys network. So subscribe to the IDP Guys YouTube channel. That would be appreciated. I also every now and then dabble in some writing for them and do some writing for Dynasty Pros Fantasy Football. Just recently put out a Dynasty article covering Jalen Hurts, not because I'm an Eagles homer, but just because I think he's at a very interesting time of his career, and I think he's going to have a fantastic season and beyond. I think he will make up for his flaws he demonstrated last year. So check out that article. My DMs are always open. I love helping people try to think through trades or any kind of start sit questions. So I'm always available for that. Yeah. So at Fantasy Ladder.
All right, and we always, as always, we got Shuey here. Shuey, go ahead and give him your info too.
You can find me on Twitter at Shuey_FF. I just want to say thank you guys for joining us tonight. This is my second mock auction ever, so it was really good getting to hear from you guys and seeing what some of your strategies are to take into my drafts going forward after tonight.
My strategy in these auction mocks is usually just be reckless and see if you can figure your way out. But we had a great time here tonight. We had a really good session talking auction strategy. If you're out there, please make sure you are subscribing to Primetime. Make sure you're following all the guys here on Twitter. And we'll be back with another draft next week. Another group of guests, and we're really excited to bring it to you. From all you out there, for Shuey himself here, have a good weekend, everybody.
Take care.